A Dredfunn original production. Please sit back and enjoy.
Hey guys, Dredfunn here, and I'm going to be doing this how-to drawing on Batman. What I'm going to be using today is, as always, if you've seen my videos, I prefer to use just a cheap little mechanical pencil, and these dollar store 0.5 HB leads. They are the company's Meccano. I love these ones. I prefer using them. They're my favorite, and this is currently the pencil I like to use. So for this portion, I've also got myself a nice little one of these stretchy erasers. I like to use these as well as, a regular eraser, and in case I need it, I also have my ruler. What I'll be using is a watercolor pad paper. It's from Artist's Loft, 90 pound. It's 12 inch by 9 inch. I like using this because on occasion I'll also seal the drawing up and put it on like a board, kind of like these ones over here, when I do any kind of painting. And what I've chose to do is I'm going to draw a classic Batman comic book style. This will just be the pencil portion of the drawing. I got my paper ready. I prefer to tape it down, especially when I'm filming. On occasion, if it's really difficult, I will switch it around. When doing any kind of drawing, especially a comic book drawing, it's good to have some sort of reference material. I just got this simple little line drawing here, or figurine drawing that I got offline. You can buy these type of caricatures, or little dolls, I guess, figurines. You can use a little G.I. Joe or a toy. It doesn't really matter. I like this. This is going to be like my basis. I'm going to have it off to the side. I'll sort of leave it here. Normally when I'm filming anything I use, I keep it right over here. And you can see I got a light source. I'm going to zoom it in a bit. And plus, since I'm drawing Batman, I got Batman Eternal here. This is a book that was given to me by my buddy Chris. Just in case, I, need to reference anything. Also, I got my computer off to the side so I can double check anything like exactly how the ears look and what kind of bat symbol we're going to go with. Alright, here we go. We're going to zoom it in. Basically, I like to outline everything in light. As I said, I have this sort of drawing off to the side, and that's going to be my basis. So I'm not really going to make it look exactly like that. It's just my basis, a reference material. It's going to be hard for me to talk because normally I don't talk while drawing. I actually like to listen to podcasts and music and stuff like that. When doing realistic images, where I'm trying to recreate the actual image, this is where the ruler comes in handy, kind of measuring exactly where I need it. With this kind of situation, I can just eyeball it. Kind of just, again, I don't want to exactly copy everything. I just want to follow a rough outline. One thing that definitely helps is knowing human anatomy. If you're going to draw comic book characters, having an idea of where the muscles start and finish and how they sort of work in conjunction with the bones definitely helps. For this here, I'm just, like I said, this is a preferred way to do it. I do like to have a rough sort of outline. I'll kind of show you another way I do it off to here. How about, I also like to do sort of a skeletal version, kind of like what somebody would do with sculpting. So, instead I'll kind of do something like that. And in relation to this arm, our shoulder is going to be higher over here. So, again, I'm going to angle the hand. You can see it kind of looks sort of like that. And again, our thumb's going to be over on this side. The hips, like I said, I like to just kind of a rough sort of where I'm going to put everything. This is going to be an image that I will also ink. I won't do it in this video, but we'll do it in a future video. as you can see, I'm doing a different style down here, where I'm kind of blocking everything out. As I fill it out, you will see how this comes together and the different styles. So basically we've got a rough outline, and that gives me what I'm working with here. I wanted a sort of dramatic kind of pose, sort of a heroic sort of pose, nothing too complicated. So if you're following along at home, you can kind of get an idea what I'm doing here. So again, if I'm going with this style with this arm or this style with the legs instead of this, I will then go ahead and sort of add the musculature, a rough sort of outline of where I'm going to bend the arm, where the arm starts and begins, and all that kind of stuff. So that's where the eraser comes in handy. And I like these ones because they don't, they just absorb the graphite. They don't actually leave any kind of eraser leave-ins, I guess, kind of like toaster leave-ins from the Bundys. Again, I'm going to do the same thing here. It's good to know the muscles. The way the human leg forms, you have like kind of almost like a teardrop that sort of forms there. You got another one here, a cloud of muscle there, and then you have these sort of muscles there. We have our calf muscle here going down into an ankle. Again, same thing sort of over here. If this were, like I said, a realistic pencil, I'd be concerned about these lines, just because the style I use, I would be erasing them and trying to make sure I didn't leave too much smudge work. With this, it doesn't really matter. Again, like I said, it's going to be a rough pencil that I am then going to show you how to ink. Already, I can tell I don't like the position of this hand, so I'm going to switch that up a little bit. Even though it looks kind of like that in the drawing, I'm going to bring it down a little more. We're going to go like that, sort of rough it out. Same thing over here. I'm getting my kind of a good idea of the musculature and where everything is. This is the upper chest part here. The pecs, like I said, they go here. The sternum area. You can see with this little maquette thing, you know, like I kind of got a rough idea. I'm going to sort of do the abs kind of like this. And that's the thing, when you're doing a comic book drawing, even when you're using reference material, you will definitely be adding a lot more stuff and adding lines and blowing up the musculature. Nobody in the real world looks like people in comic books. Well, I shouldn't say that. Nobody. I mean, like, you got bodybuilders and some professional athletes that definitely are built like comic book characters, but in general, average people, they don't generally even have this kind of musculature. Even a well-built person that you would consider has a lot of muscle really doesn't when you would draw them. Even myself, I'm a pretty big guy. If I were to draw myself, my waist would be much thicker. Even though I got a big chest and wide shoulders, it wouldn't be quite as wide as this. So here we go. I've got a rough idea where I want all the muscle to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to sort of zoom in on each individual part as I sort of fill it up. So here we go. We're going to do, basically, I'm going to do the left arm. Again, when drawing, I like to go from left to right. It helps with avoiding smudging. So here we go. Again, we're going to detail this. I'm not going to go too dark because I am going to ink this. Got a rough idea where I'm going to put everything. And again, this is sort of a quick comic book sketch. I'm not going for exactly realism. I'm trying to make this look like something you would see in a comic book. We know Batman has a glove. He's got those parts here, those little flanges that sort of come up off his arm, his forearm there. Again, the forearm muscles, you got your bicep, you got your shoulder muscles here, sort of going to put rough areas where I plan to highlight and shade. So that's kind of a rough idea what we're going to do with the arm. Then going to go over and we'll do the chest. like I said, I'm going to have a rough outline of where I'm going to put the cape. It usually follows along the collarbone area. I'm going to sort of put a rough outline. I'm going to go with this kind of symbol, the classic black, without the gold ring going around it. Again, that's the thing, when you're doing it in pencil, it's a lot like a sculptor. You don't have to worry about everything being perfect, because as you'll see, my preferred style, I go in and I'll even change things slightly as I'm inking it. So I'll notice certain areas that I don't like, and I will go in there and ink it. Again, Batman, I'm going to go with the square belt with, I'm actually going to do real sort of pouches hanging off. I know a lot of artists like to do the sort of just the cylindrical, I guess they're kind of like a little tube hanging off every few inches off his belt. Me, I'm going to do it that way. And as you can see, I've got an extra one here compared to that, but because that's why he's sort of slightly turned. Now we're going to go ahead and do the right arm. Like I said, it's going to be covered in somewhat of the shade. Again, with this drawing, you can see I'm going to follow that shade line too. You know, basically you can pick what light source. It looks like the source of light's going to be kind of over here coming this way. Boom, boom, boom. And this is something that you got to mess around with. And sometimes when doing perspectives, a good comic book image won't actually be, or at least a dramatic image that looks good. Sometimes it's not like I said, anatomically correct. Sometimes it's not even like biologically correct. Like it just physically can't be done. But for some reason, when it's drawn, it looks super good. So just detailing some of the musculature in the upper body. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do the legs here. See if I can get them all in. Zoom out a bit. Bear with me here. There we go. Got the legs. Again, I got a rough outline. I'm not going to put him in his classic white undies. Instead, I'm going to go with the more of the I guess the Universe 52 look. Sort of my own amalgamation of what you'll find there. Again, with the boots, there's a bunch of different ways you can draw Batman's boots. This way I'm going to go with sort of like that. Sometimes it's pointed, completely pointed. Other times it's straight across. It really depends on what style you're going for, which timeline he follows in. Again, this is going to be, like I said, a pretty base and simple one. We're not going to get too detailed and too intricate in the work. This is my first ever how-to video, so I don't know. I don't know if you'll be able to follow along. Right now we're about 7 minutes, 8 minutes in. Hopefully we can wrap this up in the next 3 to 4 minutes. Alright, so I got the legs. Again, you want to make sure you're paying attention to perspective and how the foot should go. With that one right there, I didn't like that foot. It wasn't going off in the right angle. As you can see in this, it would be more facing towards the person. So, and it would actually be somewhat forward. Not quite liking the way that looks, but that actually not too bad. So I'm going to bring this one down a bit, and we got it going here. There we go. I like that. That looks pretty good. Batman's a tall guy. You know, you can go ahead and measure out how many heads, but I'm just going to go with that. And now we're going to do the face, probably one of the more important parts of Batman. We'll get in right in close. Okay, now with all my drawings, I like to kind of, even the smaller ones, I like to just sort of lay out where I'm going to put the eyes, or where the eyes should be. I like to do these simple little lines as well as a nostril, and then we'll sort of, we're definitely not going to have them smiling. There we go. And then again, you're just sculpting. With most comic books, unlike real life, I prefer to do that sort of triangular look to the face. Also, with Batman, I like to lightly put in the ears because you're going to add the mask on. I don't really worry about too much about hair. I also prefer to draw Batman with the smaller, sort of stunted ears, and then thicken out the neck, kind of like you would see with the Ben Affleck, and then sort of filling in that. Now, again, we got my rough gauge where I want the eyes. Already, I know I'm going to want to go a little lower, so I'm going to bring the eye like this, down. And Batman, classic eyes are triangular. So I already don't like that one. We're going to erase that slightly and go this way. You want to keep in mind too that you can fit an eye here and an eye there and an eye there, just to give you a rough idea. But again, in the real world, you very rarely find things in exact perspective. Batman's cowl always comes across the nose line and then sort of comes down here. Most artists draw with that little crook in the area there. I like to do that as well. Do with a frown, as well as the crow's feet. Batman also has a prominent chin. And there we go. Got my rough Batman idea. Now, here we go. I'm going to zoom back out. And for the next few minutes, I'm going to shade it up and add the cape. And then from there, we're going to ink them up. Already, I can tell I want to switch something right away. It's good when you're doing this, using your figurine and sort of following it. You can sort of see certain things you don't like. Right now, I don't like the angle of that shoulder. We're bringing that guy up higher. Like that, and there we go. That feels a little better for me. Okay, now for the cape. Batman, you can always just simply go with the straight cape, or you can flow it around. For this, we're going to keep it simple. We're just going to have it draping over the shoulder, kind of like that, and coming down this way. I'm going to have it sort of kind of twisting up a la Tim Burton and Nightmare Before Christmas, sort of. We'll add another one in there and another one here. Give it that creepy look. So, alright, now I'm going to go ahead and shade this guy up and give you guys a rough idea where we're going to put all the shading. Sometimes I like to, if it's an area that's going to be really covered in a lot of black, like in this area here with the cape, this whole area, I'll simply designate it with a couple of X's, so I don't have to go in there and smudge it all in. Again, like I said, we are inking this drawing. Alright, so the shade is definitely going to be under the arm on this side. I like to actually go in light, and we're going to shade down this arm, and definitely shade up this area here. Like I said, I ink my own pencils, so I don't usually get too detailed on my the pencils that I plan to ink. Kind of give it a rough idea, and we go from there. The reason being is I find that, well, in all truth, I learned how to draw with a Bic pen. Probably not the best item to learn how to draw with, but it's what I had. And I definitely liked using it. Learned how to do a lot of different techniques with it, but over the years I've fallen in love with this mechanical pencil. The reason why I don't use the conventional sort of sharpened pencil or your classic school pencil, simply because I'm too impatient. I think I have some sort of ADHD going on. I really literally can't waste time sharpening pencils. It's that simple. So in here, I've got a rough outline of where I'm going to put the fingers, the muscles. Like I said, got a rough line here. I know where the shading's going to be. We got it on that side. I'm going to sort of bring it down on this muscle here, and then you got these things, the intercostals and your abdominal wall. Righty. Like I said, there's some artists out there that have such tight pencils that they don't have to worry about the inker being able to interpret their lines. Being the guy that inks my own pencil, it's quite a benefit, I find, because, like I said, other people do it, Eric Larson, Fabach, and I know that it helps me, it gives me a chance to sort of freehand, and as you see, as I'm developing the lines here, kind of keeping it nice and even. Alright, now shading the lower legs. You're going to keep in mind where the muscles go, and again, I'm using this as a kind of reference. You can see where we got the shade coming down over the body. It would highlight certain muscles over here. Certain things you can keep in, you can get rid of. I'm going to actually go with really dark boots, so I'm just sort of highlighting an area there. And I'm going to go like that. Put a line down here where I will ink it. And the calf, we're actually going to shade with hatching. That's something else I enjoy doing, is cross hatching, as well as single hatching and all that different kind of hatching that you can do. I'll show that to you in just a brief second. So again, I'm just going to put some lines here, kind of denote where I'm going to ink it in all black. I'm also going to go about and we're going to shade up and ink, or not ink, but we're going to shade up Mr. Batman's head here. I'm going to darken the cowl on this side, and you can see again with the drawing, kind of have a shading in here. Batman's nose definitely has a triangular shape to it. He always has prominent arches to his eyebrows, as well as these kind of crinkles in the forehead. I like to put them in beforehand, and then also, like I said, I'm keeping in mind where the shade goes on this side here. So we're going to shade this part of the face, add a little bit under the nose, a little bit under the cheek there, and then we're going to come up this way and shade this down. As I said, it gives me a rough idea where, like I said, I ink my own pencils, therefore I can get away with leaving certain things out. And since we're doing such a simple drawing, a nice sort of approach, freehand, we can keep that in mind. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and do some hatching. Alright, I'm going to start down here. I already know I'm going to put some in here. Again, with the pencil, I just do it light. I'm not worried too much about making it look exactly how I intend it to be finished. Like I said, I prefer to ink my own pencils. A lot of guys, they just like doing their own pencils. I have a style that I do in a realistic pencil where I don't ink it, and it's a completely different approach. As you can see, I'm sort of just going back and forth, different angles. I'm going to keep everything onto this side, kind of like matching up with the shade. It just sort of keeps everything nice and tight, I find, adding these. Jim Lee, awesome artist, definitely did tons of this kind of stuff. For me, like I said, I just want to get a rough idea where we're going to add these final inks, so I get a good idea where I'm hatching it. Now you can put a lot of little interesting lines and denote certain things. Maybe for another video, I might show you how I'll take like a realistic picture and draw that like Batman or another character. I've done it all. Have no problem trying it again, but for now, like I said, we're gonna just have fun with this. I do a lot of drawing with kids at the after-school program I work at, and like I said, this is very similar to an approach I would take. Mind you, we would make things a lot more simplistic. I would pick probably something that appealed to not just one section of the group, but many, so I would draw different things. Alright, I like what I've got so far. Gonna add a little bit of stubble in and around Batman's face here. So it took about 20 minutes, a little over 20 minutes to do the part one. The inking will definitely take longer, so I hope you guys tune in for that. And Dredfunn out.
This has been a Dredfunn.com production. Thanks for watching.